Feels like there were some very, very big wins in the Championship yesterday and indeed on Friday night. So let's use that as the premise for this Sunday Hot Takes video here on the Benjamin Bloom Football Channel. What was the most significant win so far this weekend? Remember, we do have one more game to play as Sunderland go to Hull later on today. Let's start at the top and work down. Sheffield Wednesday 0, Burnley 2. This feels like peak Scott Parker in the Championship. You kind of look at it and you're like, oh, okay, Burnley are kind of all right on the eye and the football is what the football is. And the numbers are all right. And then you look at the league table and they're right at the top of it on 2.1 points per game. 7 unbeaten, 4 straight clean sheets. I mean, Burnley are doing the business, and if things continue as the way they are, they will be promoted. Scott Parker will be promoted out of the Championship again. He splits opinion. He's Marmite. But what tends to happen at the end of the season when he's in the Championship is it's a successful one, isn't it? Anthony Brownhill, again, the numbers I'm mentioning, 21st for XG, 21st for shots on target. Burnley are killing it in both boxes, and they had another win yesterday. Let me know if that's the most significant one, because it took the Clarets top of the table going into the start of this 3-game week, this block of games indeed. We talked about this plenty, obviously, because we covered it on the watch along. Felt like a really big win for Leeds, didn't it? Given it was a big Yorkshire derby. Sheffield United were undefeated going into it. 2-0 margin of victory, clean sheet, 5 unbeaten. Also, given Leeds didn't have their first choice central midfield, that solution was Tanaka and Rothwell, and it went rather well, didn't it? I don't think it could have gone much better, really, for Leeds on Friday night, beating Sheffield United. Once they play Watford in midweek, it'll only be Blackburn in the top 8 as of today that Leeds won't have played. So if you believe the premise that the best teams are at the top of the league table, which some people don't, which is fine, then Leeds are going to have some easier fixtures coming up potentially and a chance to kind of put a winning run together. But in that big head-to-head on Friday night, can't say fairer than a clean sheet, a home win, 2-goal margin of victory. Big win for Leeds. Plenty of other stuff on that from Friday if you want to check out those clips on the channel. And what about John Eustace and Blackburn, hey? Still 6th in the table, 1.8 points per game. They were helped out by Norwich, Watford and Borough sort of immediately below them. None of them picking up wins. Took advantage there. But let's make this about Blackburn because it's just superb, isn't it? Yes, they skew massively productive at home. What have I got down there? 15 points out of 18 at home. They're 5 wins out of 5. But hey, get your points wherever you want to get your points and get up that table. And considering where I thought Blackburn were going to be and what the narrative was going to be this season, outstanding. And it's so straightforward, isn't it? Set play, goal, early in the game, clean sheet, win at home. It just works for Blackburn and John Eustace. Nice to see him integrating in Todd Cantwell as well, who's been a mercurial Championship player who maybe has gone off the rails a little bit. If he can pull that rabbit out of the hat, he's got a hell of a player there on his hands as well. It was Dolan with the goal from the set piece. Outstanding from Rovers. If anything, it doesn't feel like the most significant win because it's just typical Blackburn this season, isn't it? They are in the top 6, coasting along beautifully. Bristol City is Middlesbrough 0, Bristol City 2. This is difficult for people trying to cover football at a time where the manager of Bristol City, obviously his child has just passed away, and it all feels a bit silly talking about the football and silly and insignificant, doesn't it? However, that's our gig here, and in terms of the most emotional sort of win for any club here, that was it if you saw the scenes after the game. A huge win for Bristol City, and I mean, you do have to link the two things together, and that will be a great pickup for a club that will have been very, very down with that dreadful, dreadful news during the international break, right at the back end of the international break as well. So we have to kind of mention it with as light a touch as we can. So hopefully I've done that. Let's now go back to the football. It's a great win. It's very typical Middlesbrough, isn't it? But remember those brilliant results for Bristol City under Liam Manning last year where they beat West Ham and they beat Southampton? They were very good against teams that are going to be ultra possession and keep the ball. Borough, 69% of the ball, 20 shots. How many games can we come on here talk about Borough having a ton of shots and then losing 2-0? Frankly, they got caught playing out as well, which fans hate, don't they? Anis Mehmeti with the goal. Hirakawa, who looks like he's making a really good impact, curling in the second. With all the emotion, amazing for Bristol City. They draw heavy, but that is 5 undefeated, up to 10th in the table. How about that? That might be your most significant win. Let me know in the comments. Preston 1, Coventry 0. Now look, I know all the narrative, all the headlines of this are going to be about why Coventry are sucking and stinking it out quite so much at the moment. I think this was the bogey side one going into the week. I think people were telling me in the predictions video, Preston always beat Coventry or always beat Coventry at Deepdale. Smarten me up on that. I still can't seem to get the right stat there. Preston back-to-back home wins. 4 clean sheets in 5. Coventry 4 defeats out of 5. So there's 2 conflicting narratives here. One is that Paul Heckingbottom is doing a pretty decent job here, and Preston are up to 15th, and there's a kind of move in the right direction after a chaotic start to the season with Ryan Lowe leaving. Emil Rees with the goal. Sam was saying on the Championship check-in he'd not looked in form, so I know he scored from virtually on the goal line, but great for him to be on the score sheet in a win here. The other side of the narrative is Coventry are out of the bottom 3 on goal difference, but the title of the video is what was the biggest win. So talk to me about Preston. Was that the biggest win of the weekend? Or was Luton versus Watford? What were the Watford admin on Twitter thinking? I mean, I know the video was very funny, a little bit of banter, a little bit of light-hearted ribbing, but with the rain coming down and, a can in the road and the away end and all of that at Luton, but always comes back to bite you. Someone says there's always a tweet, isn't there? If you're going to put it out there on Twitter, there's always a tweet. So, yeah, Watford are going to have to suck it up. And they're going to have to suck up a big derby defeat. 3-0 to Luton. First win in 4. Rob Edwards under big pressure. It's comfortable, wasn't it? And I believe this derby goes with home form, and it did one more time. Set plays, Luton, they're still really big on those. And the first 2 goals did come, indeed, from set plays. And then a late one to make it really, really safe. It's a big derby win. Watford still skewing much better at home than away from home. But Rob Edwards really, really needed this one. I think it's Luton-Sunderland midweek, sort of reenactment of the playoff semi-final I was at a couple of years ago before Luton got themselves promoted. So really big game coming up in midweek. Again, we don't know what Sunderland have done this weekend. We've said it about 20 times already this season now. Can Luton pick up and perform like a year 1 parachute team with expectations of being near the top? If this is the turning point, this could be a very, very big win. I mean, the literal biggest win of the weekend, if you do it on scoreline, we're talking most significant, of course, was Cardiff 5, Plymouth 0, which felt a little bit like the opening day of the season when I opened up the iPad and looked at all the numbers. I was at a wedding yesterday, so I'm a bit worse for wear this morning, I've got to say, but it was very obvious to me that Cardiff absolutely battered Plymouth. Okay, there's a red card into the bargain there for Sissoko, who just lost his head when he had the ball booted at him. Lovely goal by Robertson in this one for Cardiff, but really the narrative is that Omar Reza, now in the past 3 games as sort of interim caretaker, use whatever word you use nowadays, manager at Cardiff, has got 7 points. He's got back-to-back home wins, and he's got back-to-back clean sheets in those home games as well. Chris Willock got a goal, and we're talking about Cantwell at Blackburn, Willock at Cardiff. Again, real high-level players, if you can get them anywhere near their peak level at championship, in their kind of career history. Willock obviously been brilliant for QPR at times before, but I suppose the whole story is Rees is going to get the job, isn't he? Surely, if you're going to, score 7 points in 3 for a team struggling at the bottom of the table and banging a 5-0 win, then, it seems like it's going to go in that direction. Let me know your thoughts on that. And, big one for Cardiff. I'll nail my colours to the mast before we get to the end of the video. Surely, there isn't much argument. Surely, this is the biggest win, the most significant in the Championship this weekend. QPR 1, Pompey 2. It was never going to be the mouth-watering matchup on the Check-In podcast when you've got Leeds and Sheffield United and you've got that big Yorkshire derby up at the top of the table. But QPR v Pompey was massive. And this win is, can I go a bigger word than massive? Gargantuan. When you think it's a first win for Portsmouth, they needed to get that monkey off their back. They won from behind after a really crappy first goal where the keeper comes out, heads it out, and Dembele sort of lobs it in. You're like, you wouldn't have blamed those Pompey players. It must be fairly low on resilience at the moment for, kind of folding and losing the game. And it's another one without a win. They're away at a direct rival, and they've put QPR bottom of the table to get that first win. It feels absolutely huge, doesn't it? Potts and then Lang, who's been decent actually. He's put good numbers up throughout this winless run for Pompey, but a huge win. Again, I've nailed my colours to the mast. I think that's the most significant win in the Championship this weekend. And, we'll talk about QPR during the week, no doubt, on various outlets, but for them to be bottom of the table after 10 is a big surprise to me. But let's make it about the winners, and well done, Pompey. They are off the mark with the first win, and it's a real huge one. I think the most significant result of the weekend. And look, you can see right down at the bottom of that table there, QPR down at the foot. Pompey need to build. Cardiff need to build on their big win. You can see Luton's win has built them into 17th place, but let's be fair, the standard for them needs to be far higher this season. Preston up to 15th. That's good for Paul Heckingbottom. Bristol City, again, Football League position. Feels silly to be talking about it, but we have to, and that's a great win. And I was thinking my 7th place prediction for Bristol City had started to look very embarrassing, but some points on the board and up the table they go. Blackburn, outstanding in 6th. Leeds, we've talked plenty about. They are poised just outside the top 2. We'll see what Sunderland do later. And Burnley's victory took them to the top. Let me know your thoughts in the table, and let me just try and be very clear about the question I am asking you here, because football fans, rightly or wrongly, view the entire universe through the premise, then very narrow filter of the team they support. Obviously, the most significant victory to you that warmed your heart up and made you feel good about life was the one that the team you supported got. I get it. But can you please try and look at the whole league, look at the league as a whole, and try and tell me what your most significant victory in the Championship is this round? I think it's Portsmouth. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Obviously, we've got Hull and Sunderland coming later on today. It's a busy 3-game week, so I'm going to try and speak to Matt Ashby about League One today. I'm going to try and get predictions out of Sam Parkin after the Hull Sunderland game. We'll get them up on Monday. We'll be covering the Premier League on Tuesday, and then I'll go in and do a watch-along on Wednesday night. I think it's Borough, Sheffield United, and then the Championship Check-In podcast will be on Thursday, and then we'll be back, and it'll be the weekend, and another watch-along on Friday as well. So that's what the weekend is going to look like. And the 3-game week, has started very well for Burnley, Leeds, Blackburn, Bristol City, Preston, Luton, Cardiff, and Pompey. But which was the biggest win? Get down there in the comments, and have a great Sunday.